Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Real Chums. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me is always my co-host, Danny.
In this week's episode, we're going to discuss Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania with no spoiler and spoiler conversations. So if you haven't seen it, you'll be safe. Just skip around.
I feel like lately there's so many people that just don't even care about spoilers. So if you're one of those,
whatever, just watch.
Yeah.
Just listen and watch or listen to our podcast while watching the movie.
So meta.
I love it. That's so funny. Please tell me if someone does that.
And I hope you watch it like on an iPhone. Real cinema. Real cinema.
Reals. For reals. All right. I do have a question for you today, which is, if you were Ant-Man, would you rather be stuck as an ant size or giant size?
For like ever?
Yes.
Oh, man, that's so inconvenient.
It really would be so inconvenient for all. All
right. Well, here's the question. Well, how tall am I? Like when I'm big, am I like 50 feet?
Okay, that's a good question. Let's go like 3 stories. I don't know what that is in actual feet. So like 100 feet, maybe 200 feet.
Dang. 200 feet.
Yeah, it's got to be something like that.
Because I remember in the second Ant-Man movie, he's like bragging about how he got up to like 60.
Oh, you're right. Or like, so let's go with 60 feet.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd rather be small. I think that'll just being too big. We're having like a snowstorm right now. Like I wouldn't be able to fit anywhere. I would have to be outside. That would suck.
That's true. I also agree. I think I'd rather choose small, and then I'd find a way to shrink somebody else, and then start the borrowers.
I love that. Yeah, there we go.
No, anyways.
Okay, well, before we begin into like diving into Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I think we'll just refer to it as Quantumania from now on.
Oh, I was gonna just say, can we just call it QT? Because I literally my bilingual brain that has no balance between like proper grammar in either of them literally starts like stuttering. It's like a clutch got stuck, like I'm like Quantumania. It's fine. We'll call it Quantumania.
Okay. Well, Quantumania. Yeah.
See?
Quantumania. Now it's in my head. Okay.
We'll just call Ant-Man
and the Wasp.
Yeah.
Part 3.
I think
that's
how they should have called it.
Okay, but let's kind of break down box office.
Yes.
So this movie...
Oh, wait. Sorry. I want to make one quick thing.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for all those who are listening to the podcast. We truly do appreciate you guys listening. Yes. Not only on like whether you're listening to it on YouTube or on the podcast app of your choice. It truly is like just awesome to think that like even if it's just 8 of you that you're listening to us, because we just love talking about movies, and it's pretty awesome that there are people out there just listening and want to hang out, and just to being reminded of like be willing, I'll probably put out a video in the next 2 weeks to show you how to submit a voice message in Anchor, so that you can be part of the show. Because we'd love, like, if it's anything, I'm doing what I can to, between all my other edits for clients, to edit edit the audio and video versions of this podcast. And so I'd love to interweave your questions or comments from previous episodes, if there were any. Yeah,
and I think again, thank you. And if we can, we'd love eventually to get to a point where we're incorporating you guys, you listeners, into our show, and questions, thoughts, or even just your feelings towards a movie that we just broke down, right? We'd love to add that into our conversations and get more of those insights. So please engage with us, interact with us, and again, thank you so much. Share and let people know what we're doing here.
Yep. All right, so let's get into the actual box office numbers for Ant-Man.
The movie had an estimated budget of $200 million.
Did you check what the budgets were for the other Ant-Mans?
I haven't actually. I didn't.
Okay.
I'll talk about this. You do that, yeah. So it opened with $104 million in domestic ticket sales, and early Sunday, it actually, which going back to the other previous Ant-Mans, that surpassed the box office debuts of the previous 2 Ant-Mans. So that's great. Ant-Man has always they've been great, but they haven't hit the big numbers that like the other Marvel movies do. But like it's always been pretty consistent. But Quantumania added another 121.3 million overseas. So as of like Monday morning, after it came out, it's sitting at about 225 million global launch. So that's great.
Yeah. So
good for them.
Yeah, good for them. To put in perspective, I mean, Ant-Man 1 was only 130 million.
130. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're not spending a ton of budget. But you know what I think it is? Paul Rudd just... I don't know if they, like, expected Ant-Man to do super well or not.
I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Ant-Man, original Ant-Man movie, was going to be directed and written by Edgar Wright.
Right? Oh, that would have been so good.
Famous for Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim, right? And we could actually do like a whole episode. Let us know. Like, it's a fascinating story. Just as Marvel has the What If series,
yeah.
Somewhere in the multiverse, there is a version where Edgar Wright directed and wrote the first Ant-Man movie. And if you go back and he stayed on, they gave him credit as a screenwriter for that first one because they kept like 60% of what he wrote in that movie. And if you watch the first Ant-Man, there's like a lot of beats that you're like, yeah, that's Edgar Wright's writing. Or even like...
That makes sense.
There are parts, at least for me, where when I'm watching, I'm like, that scene is clearly Edgar Wright's writing, but that scene would have also been a lot cooler with his filmmaking style.
Yeah.
And the whole like Luis, his buddy, that whole dynamic, that is all Edgar Wright's writing. That has him written all over it.
Dude.
Which like when you watch the second one,
yeah.
you can tell like
it's lacking.
It's lacking that. And even we'll talk about this one, the third one, but
yeah.
Somewhere out there in the multiverse, Edgar Wright directed
one day, maybe when Time to Travel happens, we'll find that universe and then we'll do an episode of the Edgar Wright podcast. I'm gonna put it on the universe. If we ever get to a point where we can invite directors, I totally want Edgar Wright to be on our podcast
because of course he'll listen to this.
Absolutely,
100%.
All right, Edgar, hit me up in the DMs when you're ready.
Far, the movie's doing well. It's had a lot of mixed reviews, surprisingly.
And not surprisingly.
Okay, we'll get to that. And then, and I think it's like second worst rated on Rotten Tomatoes. With Rotten Tomatoes, it's its own thing, but like it's the second worst rated MCU. Okay,
I have a question about Rotten Tomatoes. Do you trust Rotten Tomatoes?
I don't.
Yeah. I've never once looked at a film and said like, oh, this is doing a great critic or poor critic, and I'm not going to watch this. Or this is doing great on whatever. I literally don't ever like judge that. I don't. I know that some people do. Some people are really religious on that. And if you are, fantastic. We all need we all need some like guidance because you don't have time. There's a lot of, as we are realizing, not that we're like, we knew this. We knew going into this that this was going to be an adventure. But so use what you can. But I'm
not a big fan of Rotten Tomatoes.
Sometimes I feel like it's just like haters or lovers just like go and they bombard it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Let's do like a quick spoiler-free synopsis of the movie.
Basically, in Ant-Man 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, we don't know exactly what the time span of since the blip has happened, but Scott Lang and his daughter and
Hope
are the whole like Ant-Man clan,
the
Ant family are just they're living life. They're just kind of chilling, and their daughter, who Hope, is trying to get involved with the family business to a degree, right? And ends up opening up, trying to map the quantum realm, and ends up causing them to be sucked in. The rest of the movie is them trying to get out. There's some struggles and obstacles that they have to face, and some secret revelations that have to be uncovered. And that's Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Yeah, we're gonna do non-spoilers first, and then and you can see it in the show notes where we start talking spoilers. But what was your impression of this movie?
Okay, so initial impressions, like right out of theaters after we watched it, it was good. Like, it was good. I was surprised. I don't know if we can talk about the one main character that I hysterically laughed at. Like I was the only person laughing. Should we talk about? Should we wait for that for spoiler?
I mean, they showed that character briefly in one of the trailers, but
we'll wait till spoilers.
We'll wait till spoilers.
Okay, so initial impressions. I think it was good. I really missed Jose Pena's
Michael Pena.
Luis.
Yeah.
Luis, his character.
Yeah.
And like just the overall dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
It was a decent Ant-Man movie. Ant-Man and Wasp, like the whole Ant-Man family. I thought it was, it had some really good moments overall. So would I watch again? Yes.
Okay.
So I think that's my initial impressions.
Yeah. I think for me, it's a completely different tone from the other two Ant-Man movies, right? Very different. And that's not like a good or a bad thing. It's just very different. You're not in San Francisco. There's like a heist element to it, but like not really.
Yeah.
They tried to incorporate that. Yeah, you're missing, like, this movie's centered more like on the Ant family rather than like Scott Lang and like his friends. But yeah, it's a different tone.
I think that they, to a degree, they had to do something. This was like, we shouldn't be expecting this. We shouldn't have expected the same sort of Ant-Man. Like,
yeah, no.
I mean, we knew that this was like, this is the opening of
Phase 5.
Phase 5. And so they needed to introduce different things. They had to set some things up. And because of that, I think that it just naturally meant that this movie was going to be different.
Yeah, which is great because I feel like, especially Ant-Man and the Wasp, it almost felt like an afterthought.
It did.
Right? It came out after Infinity War.
Yeah.
And we were all like emotionally distraught after Infinity War. And then like Ant-Man, it was like, okay, yeah, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
And even like the first one also came out after the second Avengers movie. Like It was like the second movie that came out after that, Phase 2. So like, it was great. I love that this is what kicks off Phase 5. And with it, naturally, it's going to have like a different tone to it. But which I think it's great. Like you said, you can't expect the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about, this is something you brought up, I think when on one of the other episodes, was just that you're not sure what you felt about the quantum realm. Is it the volume or is it green screen? And like, what was the experience like some of the characters and, that whole aspect? I'm pretty positive that it's the volume now. It's a volume.
Okay.
Or at least,
I think it's like a combination.
I think some scenes probably are like, some of the more character-driven portions might be a volume, whereas some of the bigger landscapes were probably like a green screen, blue screen, or whatever. I will say that like, it looks great. Like, it wasn't as, there was a couple moments that were like not jarring, but like, I didn't love. Like, it was like, it's like, this is obviously they have to like create a world. It's not space.
Yeah.
Like, it's the opposite of space, right? It's
sure.
But they have to create space in like a tiny form or whatever. So that was like a thing that was kind of interesting. I thought some of the things that they ended up doing to enter like the realms and whatever did feel unique. It felt new to a degree.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I haven't read much of the Ant-Man or Ant-Man and Wasp comic books, so I don't know like what the source material looks like or is like in that aspect.
Sure.
And so, but it made me want to say, what is the source material? What are they looking at, and what do they have to like? What do they give to character artists to adapt and to figure it out?
Yeah, 100%. It looked great, and I love the fact that I think early Mandalorian, like the Mandalorian season 1, there were times where you're like, oh wow, like I could, not knowing the volume, there are times where I'm like, okay, I can see where it's like the volume. Whereas now, like, I couldn't, it's hard to know, like, is that green screen or is that the volume, right?
I know.
So it looked great. And I had expressed, like, in previous episodes, like, I just wasn't excited for the whole movie to be inside the quantum realm because, like,
nope.
and it is.
Sorry, that was a spoiler, not spoiler.
Yeah. But, like, I think my criticism, I was not wowed by it.
I think that's part of where this movie struggles.
Yeah.
Is I think that like we're brought to this world that is supposed to be something that, you know, Ant-Man or Hank Pym and Scott, you know, like that is him and his wife were studying and trying to figure out, and that was like a big deal. And then, you know, like and then was a portion of the second one and trying to, you know, like that whole aspect of it. And then, you know, actually Scott being stuck in this, you know, world. So like I definitely felt like there was, you don't have, I don't know what it was. You know, I really don't. Like, I've been trying to think about it since we watched the film. I'm like, what? Why wasn't it there? And I really do think it's like they didn't allow. Honestly, I think part of it is they didn't allow for breathing time in the actual quantum space, in the quantum realm, like. Because there were moments that they could have, and they maybe had those moments,
and they would cut it out,
and they maybe they just cut their darlings, and they just said like we can't, we need to move this thing to get there, and we'll get into some other moments that I think are.
No, I think you're right, because I just like I think of Doctor Strange. Remember the first Doctor Strange where he goes like into the she like pushes him, and he goes into like the mirror dimension, right? Or even in like Spider-Man, the mirror dimension. I continue to love the mirror dimension, or even in the first Doctor Strange where he goes and faces off with Dormammu, and he's in that like weird realm. That was cool. Like that looked really cool. I like that better, and I watched it again actually over the weekend. That scene, I'm like, this looks a lot cooler and more, I don't know.
Even though that scene was not long.
No, it wasn't long, right? But that like space, that realm that Doctor Strange is in with Dormammu just looks so much cooler than what the quantum realm was. And I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what it is.
I don't know either. Like, because they had moments where like they tried to emphasize like this is like a micro universe.
Yeah.
And that this is like an entire, you know, people and like,
there's living creatures, organisms in there. Yeah. But
I think that when we get to the spoiler portions, I think that comes with some of the other things that some of the struggle that come in that aspect. Let's talk casting for this film.
Jonathan Majors all the way.
Dude, Jonathan Majors is a great. I saw an article that he almost didn't do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was. I think there were. I can't remember what. If I can find it, I'll put it in the show notes. But there was like a moment he was maybe not going to do it. Then anyways. So I'm glad he was. He's in this movie. I feel like what's the daughter's name?
Cassie,
like,
played by Catherine Newton.
She was actually. I felt like she did a pretty good job. I felt like she filled She filled the Scott Lang and Hope, or not Hope, but Scott Lang's like a daughter of Scott Lang who now has like the stepmom Hope in her life and becoming involved with what is trying to be done. It does really feel like she's kind of adopted this Hope as her stepmom to a degree, and
her parents, right? Because she even calls them grandpa and grandma, right?
Right.
I love that. Yeah.
And so I thought she was phenomenal. I feel like there wasn't much other casting. I mean, there were people in there, but I don't feel like there was enough character.
No, even like the creatures or the characters inside the quantum realm. You had that like blobby guy.
I didn't look this up. I should have. Who were some of the other like voice actors for like these creatures?
So you know that like blob with the holes, the guy. He was voiced by one of the David. I can't remember, but he's one of the buddies from the other Ant-Man movies. He's the Eastern European guy.
Oh,
he voiced that character. So even though it's the same actor, he didn't come back to play that character. He came back and played a different character.
Bill Murray is Bill Murray.
That was just a scene. Like,
I know, it was just like
okay, you got.
He could have been a cameo. I mean,
and going back to like 100% that scene. It was cool to like see like Michael Douglas and like Bill Murray, these two like actors, but like I'm like 98% sure that they filmed those scenes without the other being in their room. Does that make sense? Like they had Bill Murray show up for like 3 days and like he did his lines and
it
like
wasn't even 3 days, dude. It was like, you know, a couple hours.
And most likely I've read that he just likes to have his lines like printed out so he can read them.
Oh, that makes sense.
And like there was like Michael Douglas and like no one else was there probably. But the other character, the actor is in The Good Place.
His name is William Harper. He was funny. He had some moments.
I wish he would have been more in it, right?
I agree. He had some moments. He had a cool, interesting character. He was like a humanoid. He was a telepath. And I wish he was in there a little bit more. Or him and the like freedom fighter that was in it, the female. I don't know who she was.
I don't know who she was, but
I don't know either. Yeah. Maybe Katie O'Brien or not. I don't know. Anyways, but she was an interesting. Like there were some pretty interesting characters, but again, like I think this comes back to that like quantum realm like sphere. I think, you know, I'm assuming that like the quantum realm will have no other will probably not be even touched.
Yeah, that's probably a very good point. It probably won't be revisited.
And so it was there. It was a moment.
It happened. And let's move on.
Yeah.
Imagine if Luis, the character of Luis, had been sucked into the quantum realm with them. And I think these scenes where like they go to that bar, you know, reminiscent of Star Wars, or he's bumping into these, like he could have been that really good comedic relief because he's great at it. He's so good. And like him interacting with all these creatures in there and just somehow tagging along with them, I think that would have been such a better comedic opportunity in this movie.
I mean, period. Alone, Michael Pena is one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
One day I'm going to dress up as Michael Pena for Halloween because I feel like I could pull him off. And I think you have here in our show notes to talk about the Ant family dynamic. Mm-hmm. And I want to hear your thoughts first on this one. Because the fact that like we don't have the other characters that we've kind of associated with Ant-Man, and this is more of like a coming together story for the Ant-Man family. Yeah. And not only coming together, but discovery of Cassie and her role in this family.
Yeah. So here, I love, and we've talked about this. I love Cassie and Scott's dynamic. Yeah. Like, even though we had little Cassie who's so cute and adorable in the first two movies, and now we have the grown-up Cassie, I think Scott or Paul Rudd does a great job at, like, keeping that love and that flow from the first two movies towards Cassie with her. I thought it was great. And she plays really well off of him. I was sad that Hope did not get as much play.
The more as I thought and kind of reminisced on this movie after we watched it, I kind of sat back and I'm like, what is, like, this is supposed to be something that they're like coming together. They did a poor job of it with this family. Like, I hate to say that, but they did a poor job with just like the mother and her, like her kind of like her dynamic in the quantum realm with like the Hope really not like I thought she was gonna have a better like role in this film, or like a dynamic between Cassie and her, or her with Paul and Lily and Paul interacting with Cassie and like seeing them maybe have a conflict with Cassie becoming more of a actual aunt person. Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, to me, I mean, I've never sat in a spot or been an editor where I've had to take studio notes and I've had to edit a movie according to these notes, right? But when I think back at this film, and I'm like I'm hoping to like go back and watch this when it comes out in Disney Plus to maybe be checked and maybe say, man, it wasn't so bad. But I feel like this is one of those movies that maybe got a ton of studio notes and really had to be like modified or trimmed or something just to be able to fit and to make it feel, or maybe not feel, but like fit a small puzzle piece to the greater next chapter.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I don't know, because I feel like all these actors are really strong actors.
Yeah.
And they did, like, when they had a moment, they landed. But there wasn't many. There wasn't enough to make me want to really have them, to make me feel even a deeper connection to them.
And even like we saw in the trailer, right? Which in the trailer you have King say to Scott something along the lines of like, I can give you time, right? You've missed all this time. I can provide that to you.
Right.
And I love that in the trailer because it's like, oh, okay, like we're going to see Scott like have to make some hard decisions about what should he sacrifice, right?
Right.
And that wasn't delivered in the movie.
No.
Like it wasn't. And I think here's a better rewrite for you. You have Scott Lang and Hope and Cassie split up, and then you have Hank and Janet be together. And the whole time you have that opportunity for Scott and Hope and Cassie to kind of build that family unity or unit. And then, but at the same time, like Hope is struggling with the fact that maybe her mom wasn't being honest, which they touched upon that, but it wasn't like Hope the whole time was just like, you don't need to know these things or whatever, right? Like it would have been great for her to be isolated from her mom and to really come to terms with this
while she's trying to
help her and save her. And then now you have a little bit more of engagement and character development from those three.
Okay, I think we should let's hop into the spoilers, because I think that this is where we can really break down some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Because this may sound like we don't like the movie. I think it's a good watch.
Yeah.
If you like watching movies in theaters, definitely go watch it. I think if you are someone who like want to know whether you should watch it in theaters or not, I would say just hold off and wait. It's a good watch. It's a fun. I mean, especially I think most of the Ant-Mans are pretty like family friendly.
Yeah.
And so if you have like that 8 to 10-year-old range, you probably can have them depending on as a family. But it's a good movie night film.
Definitely.
Let's get into the actual spoilers. Okay, so first off, I mean from the get-go, the whole premise of this like scenario is that King is trying to get out of the quantum realm,
right?
And that Janet Van Dyne is she helped reestablish his like King's like multidimensional traveling pod.
Yeah.
And that she is like withholds all this information for the entire
the whole movie.
I don't know if this is the MacGuffin. Like I would some people would say this is the MacGuffin, but it doesn't. It's not.
No.
Because literally like this is where I was trying to hold off. I was trying to be nice for this like not even in the podcast. I was just trying to do it for myself. I was trying to give this more credit, but every time I started to come down to break down like what was happening with this film, it felt like there was they were trying to do a film for King.
Yes.
But no real character. Like they didn't do justice to these characters because Janet has a secret, doesn't tell Hope, but they get separated. And then the entire rest of the movie, and then not only that, but we have Cassie who went to jail, is like actually interacting with like Hank and Hope with like her own ant suit. Like there were so many great opportunities for them to to have like some tension between these families, but there was never a moment for them to actually have that
tension that would allow them to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think, and again, going back to what you said, maybe they had those opportunities. I know I read that, and it was on Instagram too, from one of the actresses from Evangeline Lilly. But like, there was a point where she was supposed to have a son in this movie.
What?
Yeah.
What? I mean, she mentioned. I mean, I told you in like I think in the last one, or maybe it was in conversation or something, that Evangeline was really excited for this performance because she felt like this was like Hope's, her like peak of like where she's at as like, and they kind of like they do this exposition moment where they kind of give this thing, but we just like it's.
But we didn't see it.
We don't have any. She literally has like, she maybe has. 6 lines,
and she had she had her moment at the end, right?
Yeah.
When she comes back from our dimension to the quantum realm, but it just wasn't. I just didn't feel like it was earned.
Nothing lands. Sorry, nothing is earned in this film.
Yeah, exactly. I hate, and this is I do hate this. I hate that now we have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We started out with a tech billionaire who. In a situation where it's life or death, he had to build an armor of suit and be able to escape, right? And it was under these conditions that were horrific and challenging, and he did it. But I hate that now we live in the MCU where like a college dropout can create a quantum device that allows him to visit the quantum realm. Like,
I mean, is she Cassie a dropout? I don't know, but she does have her like her grandpa is like, or like her step grandpa. But I don't disagree with you. Like the thing is like, I think and I think what you're saying here and what I 100% agree with you is that this film is a symptom of what the MCU is going through, which is they're forgetting about providing depth to the characters in hope of the bigger picture. Because to me, like when I think about this movie, they literally have like I don't know what role they could have played in the bigger chapter. I think what it comes down to, there's no consequence.
None.
They're absolutely. That's what it comes down to, is there's no consequences right now in the MCU. And let's get into a little bit more of the spoilers. One of the biggest consequences in this film is the fact that King is trying to get out. And this whole thing is leading up to this aspect, right? Is King wanting to get out and them realizing, and even like the conversation where the fact that like Janet tells Hope, like that whole scene of her coming out with the fact that who King kind of is, literally like a blip. It was like, oh yeah, and this guy could like destroy the universe, and so we're gonna go. Wait, nothing. Just like let's move on. And so, I mean, there's a moment where Scott is there, like he's fighting King, and we think that they've opened up the portal again to get back into the regular dimension, to regular Earth, and it like I was 100% expecting.
So was I.
100%. I was like, they're going like he's gonna get stuck in the quantum realm in this scenario, and like, what is gonna happen?
I knew they weren't gonna kill him.
Yeah,
but I for sure was like, okay, he's going to get stuck here.
Yeah,
and what are the consequences of this? And how is Cassie and Hope and the rest of the Ant family? Or I was hoping that like...
Or that someone else was gonna die.
Gonna die, yeah.
You know what they did? Nothing. Literally, not. They're like, just kidding. You aren't alone. We reopened this portal because we did reboot. We unplugged it and plugged it back in, and we're here to pick you up.
It's so frustrating.
It's so frustrating.
Again, going back to like having these characters earn their achievements or earn their character development. How much more effective would it have been if you have like a Janet get stuck down there, or even Janet die, and then Hope has to come to this realization of like, I was mad about my mom not sharing these things, but like now I can't tell her how I feel because she's stuck or she's dead, right?
Can we do like a thought experiment here?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we need to talk about King performance and that whole aspect. But I kind of want to lead this up with different story beats in this film, and let's discuss like the beat and then what we think could have been, how we could have made this like the consequence real. Okay, so the first literally first 5 minutes of the film is just Scott Lang doing a VO of his life, which
I loved it. And you know what? It's a great way to like set where we're going and also like where he is in life. Like he's happy, he's pleased, he's written this book, and he definitely deserves that.
Yes.
The guy did save half the universe.
Yeah.
Okay, like if he doesn't want to work again, he shouldn't have to work again. Like I love that side of Scott Lang. I
also love that he wrote a book. he writes this book, and it's just like this like ongoing joke throughout the rest of the film, and it's so quirky, and I wish there was a little bit more of it throughout the film.
Yeah.
I mean there was a little bit, but not enough. But I do think that and I think what you said is great because it's a perfect setup to cause a payoff for the conflict.
Yep.
Which they kind of do. So what happens is he's in this book, and then he gets a call from the police station.
Yeah.
And Cassie is in jail. And they go pick her up. Okay. And this is where our first thought experience is going to happen. So they're in the car, and they've picked Cassie up, and they're trying to have a conversation. And not only does Cassie spill the beans that this is not the first time she's done it, but that Hope also knew.
Yeah.
Or was that in the dinner scene?
No, that was in the car. Right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Anyways, so what do you think should have happened in order for me to build upon whether that the connection? Because at this point, this is the introduction that like Scott wants to be connected with his daughter, because he like literally the last line of the book is that he just wants to spend time with his daughter and be connected with his daughter. Right after that is this moment of he doesn't realize what's really going on with his daughter. At least he's starting to have these moments of like, wait, do I really know what's going on? I guess we could go into like the dinner scene, because that kind of leads into, because in the dinner scene they have like they expand a little bit more that it's not only the second time,
not only Hope knows, but Grandpa and Grandma also know.
Yes.
Right. And then they have this interaction where, you know, they kind of turn it on Scott to say like, well, what are you doing? Like Hope is like curing.
Yeah.
I don't know. She's
saving planets.
She's saving worlds or she's doing things and like everyone's doing these achievements, and what are you doing, Scott? And that's fine. But then like they just brush it off.
Yeah.
Whereas I would have loved to have had a scene where Scott really just digs into this dynamic of him and his daughter, where he's like, I thought we were in a good position, right? I thought I'm back. I'm trying to be the dad that I hadn't been here for 5 years. Not just that, but the dad that was also in prison for 3 years. So I haven't been in your life for 8 years total, right?
Yeah.
Like, what can I do? And it gives us also an opportunity for Cassie to have been able to recognize her failings, her flaws, and be able to for both characters to just come together and establish another opportunity for a payoff later, which we'll get to.
I mean, not only that, but I think it could have been that like Hope backs up Cassie and saying like, look, I love you, Scott, but like Cassie's right. What, I've asked you to come and help me, at the company, or, like interact, that like Hope and Cassie have come closer together. But where is Scott in this chapter,
dynamic,
right? Because then the like inciting incident kind of is brought up with the fact that like she's been working on the quantum realm mapper.
Yeah.
Right? So people know that because of the trailer. Well, that's like the whole premise of the thing. They get sucked into the quantum realm. Okay. They get separated. All right. And I think, and not only that it's, and this is like like you said, like that moment could have set up these two payoff.
Yeah.
We have storyline A with Scott and Cassie. We have storyline B with the mom, and because the mom starts to get freaked out, right? So she's trying to like shut it down. She's not realizing that this is something that Hank and Cassie have been working and Hope somewhat knew about, and they get into the quantum realm. And this is like the first thing that we like, because I mean, like, this is the first moment that like the quantum realm feels like a big deal.
Yep.
And it's not really like, it's literally from one character, from Janet.
From Janet.
And then they get sucked in and they get separated. And from the moment they land with Janet and Hank and Hope, she's
closed off.
Yeah.
Such an odd decision for a character to write the character like this, where she just doesn't want to like.
Yeah, she doesn't want to talk. She kind of brushes them off. Hank doesn't really push her on it. Mm-mm. Hope is like stressed, like weak, like she is visually. She's like, I think Evangeline did a great job in the sense of like, she's stressed. She wants to get to Hank and Cassie, and she just wants to, but she's also dealing with the fact like, what are you keeping from us?
What are you hiding? Yeah.
Right. And so I want to let's focus on this because like from that point on the B side arc with just Janet, Hank, and Hope, their arc encompasses them getting like Janet saying we're in the quantum realm, this is all the universe, and like finding her like homies from the quantum realm, like conquering these beasts, going to the bar scene, which was weak. It just like it felt a little Star Warsy. Bill, like you said, Bill Murray just felt like a Bill Murray scene.
Yeah.
And then getting on the ship, trying to get back to things. So that's like their arc. And throughout this whole thing, like where are you at with? What do you think could have made this experience better?
Looking back, here's how I would have loved to have seen. We eventually get to the point where Janet explains that she helped King rebuild the quantum core, right? And that she touched it.
No, the multi-dimensional core.
Yeah. And that she touches it, and then she gets these visions and these flashbacks, right, of what happened. I would have loved for her to have had the opportunity to actually, and that's all we get, like just quick flashbacks of what King did.
Yeah.
I would have loved for a scene to have kind of dug a little bit more into King's motives. This is my only criticism about King. I would have loved the scene that explained more of his motives. Why is it that he wants to do these things? Maybe there's more to King in the sense that like maybe he's like a necessary evil,
right? To
like keep the dimensions aligned, right? But then I would have loved for her to finally just confess and say, "This is why I am panicking here. There's this individual, King, and this is what he does. This is what he stands for. This is what I did, and here's like the consequences of what could happen." That then, as a viewer, lets me know, oh,
this is a big deal.
This is a big deal.
Yeah.
But when you keep just saying, "Don't worry about it. You don't need to know," or just there's things that I kept from you. I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to say like it's so traumatizing that she doesn't want to talk about it. No, like show it to me and tell me why I and why Hope should also be concerned.
Yeah. Or even, and the other thing is like Hank doesn't really have a role.
Nah, the guy's just like tagging along.
He literally just tagging along. And really at the at the end of the film, he communicates with these ants who become like super ants who've lived a bajillion years.
Yeah.
And like become this super ant civilization of the future or something, which is
it's a cool concept.
It's a cool concept. It's fun. Like it's a great like Ant-Man, like it might be an Ant-Man homage or something that I don't know about, but the fact that like, because he literally like even when she tells some of these things that they're like they find out that like she had needs with Bill Murray's character, because he's like only the parts that I'm only human when the parts that counts.
Yeah.
And then Hope's like, "Mom," she's like, "I had needs." Anyways, but like the scenario is like he just kind of like he's like doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
And I think what would have been, so like you said, like her sharing the experience and then having Hope be so upset at her. And then Hank being like, why didn't you tell me sooner?
I would have never helped Cassie build this. Right.
Now, obviously that the whole scenarios, but that conflict of like, this is stuff that we needed to talk about. Mm-hmm. And they kind of touch on like, we've been trying to get you to open up, and like throughout moments of this entire film, I feel like Janet, there was good moments with her and King, like wanting to, build together. I felt like, and this is getting to the King portion of like, I feel like this made us feel for King, mm-hmm. but not deep enough.
Yeah.
To make us feel, to make us understand. Because, by the way, I'm sick.
And he is sick, everyone, just so you know. And he is a champ, and he's killing it. He's doing great. Like,
I think with Thanos is that we had the first Avenger, mm-hmm. Or the Avengers, and Iron Man having this like deep fear of what the future is going to bring.
He needs to put an armor around the world. Yeah.
Right. That like fed it. And we didn't really no one really knew that Thanos was going to be a thing. And people started like kind of speculating. Now we're in like, we're deep into the MCU. Mm-hmm. And so like we kind of know some of these things. And so I just think that like that moment could have really helped. That B story really would have solidified who King is for us.
And given it to us a lot earlier, so that way we could have felt that impact and the urgency.
Yes.
Right? As the viewers and as the characters to take action.
Because let's talk about the A storyline with Scott Lang. You want to take it?
So with the A storyline, right? Scott and Cassie have been separated, and the whole idea is that they are trying to find the other group. And they come across a civilization, a refugee group that have felt the consequences of King's conquering in the quantum realm, and that's when we're introduced to MODOK.
Oh my gosh!
But this entire time, and there are moments in when MODOK starts attacking, where Scott is so focused on Cassie's safety, and Cassie is once again focused on like helping others and like doing the heroic aspect, whereas Scott just wants to make sure that she's safe. Which once they're captured, then they go to King, and that's where he does his whole monologue of how he needs to get out. If you don't do this, like I'm gonna kill you. And then I'm gonna have you watch it.
I'm gonna kill your daughter.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill your daughter, and then I'm gonna have you watch. Well, how was it? Like I'm gonna have you watch like
her death. I'm gonna torture your daughter until she dies,
and you're gonna relive that moment
for the rest of your life,
for eternity.
Yeah,
so powerful. Right?
Yeah, that was a really strong scene.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think that, and it's not so much there was a strong scene in the sense of, there, but I think that it was a strong scene because we know that Scott, and again, this comes back to the fact that there was the importance and the like impact for a character. Mm-hmm. We know that for Scott, Cassie is his world.
Yeah, right. We've had 2 movies to tell us that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's why that moment, that was a really good, it was something that he was willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. So.
And this is where I wish I would have loved to have put Scott in a really strong moral dilemma, where I would have loved for him to have been like, yeah, I'm going to do it, or I'm willing to like, I don't know, give him conflict so that he can save his daughter. Whereas like he eventually does the little heist, but the whole idea behind it was that he was going to, and maybe this is how I understood it. He was going to betray King from the beginning. He was never going to give the core to King. And I would have loved for him to have an opportunity to say, no, like, Janet, you're telling me this guy is horrible, bad, whatever. Like, I don't care. I need to save Cassie.
Yeah.
And I am willing to give this to him so that I can protect Cassie. And again, I would love to have seen more of that depth from Scott, and more of a moral dilemma for him to like be willing to sacrifice, and then eventually have that opportunity to like find the solution to like where we can all work this out and save the day, right?
And I think what would have made the moment where King does come to him and give him the ultimatum even better is we don't actually get, like, there's literally minimal moments where Scott and Cassie have other moments to be able to like build that, to build up that moment. Like I would have loved Scott being a little bit more like, because they get captured, they have this interaction with these beings, and having them like have a little bit of a mini fight, and then her storming off of some kind, or like disappearing, and then him having some sort of like fear, because then MODOK comes in and starts attacking, and because he does have that moment. He's like trying to find Cassie, but it's not nearly like, it's not like a moment where like he just wants to be with her. It's a little bit of that, and then we find out that she has her own suit, and then he's trying to like teach her how to punch and how to do, which is kind of a fun little scene. And then having another moment right before King shows up. They kind of, again, they have these moments. They're like,
they're sprinkled there. They're there, but they're just not delivered.
They're not. Yeah, they're just, and it's not that they're not delivered in like an acting sense, but like they're not delivered in the sense of like what it means to add that extra character depth. And so, because could you imagine because they kind of have this, then Dad, you're like focused on yourself and not actually focused on trying to like provide do something that we could do together.
Yeah.
Right? Because she kind of starts to do that with the fact that like, we didn't help these people, we need to help these people, or whatever. And then King comes in and starts to have this conversation and like, I need your help, which then sends them into the little heist for this thing.
Even if we even go back and had Hope been split and gone with Hank or with Scott and Cassie, she could have played that role of like where Scott's saying like, no, I'm doing this because I'm gonna save Cassie, and Hope could have been, no, we need to think about this because like there could be larger consequences, and then you create conflict between these two characters.
Honestly,
right?
I think that would have been a better. I think if Hope and Scott, because like he finds out that Cassie has a suit without Hope being there.
Yeah,
and 100% we know that Hope gave her that suit.
100%, yeah.
She's like, yeah, of course, let's do this. Let's go. You're awesome. You're working with my dad. You're part of the family. Let's, she wants to be an activist. She wants to help out. Like, and then having that be a big conflict between Scott and Hope. Because that would have been a better payoff towards the end. Because they would have, like, that would have been a bigger fight in sense, because then we would have met up with her parents, Hank and Janet, and them coming saying like, we need to do something huge, right? There's a big pressure. So ultimately, the last half of the whole thing. Oh, let's just talk MODOK. Can we just quickly talk about MODOK? The biggest spoiler here. Oh man, we gotta cook through this next little bit. I'm sorry, guys. I might cut some stuff out. MODOK is just,
I mean, so the MCU's version of MODOK is Yellow Jacket. After he got squished into the quantum realm, he survived being down there. He now has a big head, little butt,
and a little arm,
little arms, and
legs.
And he's a completely different character. Okay, here's the thing. It's unsettling. Like, I never settled into like, every time MODOK came on screen, I was just like, oh man.
Well, they had MODOK as in the MODOK that we think of in the comics, with like, it's like his metal plating, and then they would like show actual Darren with like an actual like oversized human face with these little arms that are like, it's obviously CG'd, and it is so unsettling. And then like they're having these weird like it's like he was trying to be like he was trying to be Luis.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but then he's like with him and Cassie. There's like some like banter and quips, and it just I got to a point where there's like I could not handle it. It just like was so. It was like one of the weirdest moments I think in film, especially even like a comic book setup that I was kind of like, I just don't understand who decided to make this okay.
And maybe it was that like they were like, we need like a comedy relief in here, and he will play that part, but like for me it didn't work. No. Like it did not work.
I lost it at one point in the film. Like I was like the only person that was laughing hysterically.
I do remember that,
but it's because I was like, I literally was laughing because I was like, why?
Because of the ridiculousness of it.
Why would they do this? He is ridiculous.
And again, I know, like in the comic books, he is ridiculous. He is ridiculous, and he's just an odd character, and like you're not supposed to like him, but like it was just weird.
It was weird, and I will say this: I do feel like having Darren having him brought back as MODOK in this series was actually pretty good. Like I thought it was like a good,
it's a great way to like connect it and like bring him in. I would have loved for him to have not died.
Yeah,
which was the weirdest death scene. It was just my gosh,
the MODOK he's unsettling.
It would have been great for him to not die, escape the quantum realm, and then like in like on Earth, start like a corporation like in the comic books and just like be a mercenary as well and like start killing people. Like I think that would have been cool. But he was just weird.
I kind of wish they had just done, instead of like revealing like literally almost the entire time it was with his like shield face.
Okay.
Until like towards the end where he like gets damaged or hurt.
Yes.
And then we find out that he's Darren.
And honestly, that's, in my opinion, that's the best time that CGI looked with when he was like hurt. Because I don't know if it's just the reference point of having like blood and being bruised that makes it more
because like
tangible or whatnot. But in my opinion, I think that's when he looked the best.
Yeah.
That character.
And again, I think this is one of those things like, we got the payoff was already, this is Darren.
Yeah.
And we were like, this is the rest of the movie. You're just like, this is weird. This is weird. This is weird.
And just like his interaction, hey Scott, it's me. Like you did not talk like this. And I understand that like your mind got messed up, but like it was just weird.
It was. I mean, was it a good laugh? It was. It was a good laugh, dude. It was a good laugh, and I appreciated that I was the only one that one of the only people that laughed, because like I was willing enough to like just be like, they're just being ridiculous.
Again, I think if you had brought Luis in with the group,
dude,
he could have really, in that environment, he could have really he could have been a great comedic relief in there.
Let's just quickly wrap up with the fact that like King, so they have this giant fight.
Yeah.
You know, they come in, they end up getting the particle. Like we said, the ants are there, like these super ants that, you know, Cassie gets her revolution.
That's right.
She gets to start the revolution. And like there's a proud dad moment of like, man, I really should have been doing something more or whatever. Then Scott and goes against King. And I have some quirks with this. Scott is not a superhuman.
He's not.
And yeah, he goes toe to toe with freaking King. Now, I understand King is also not a superman, but he's got super technology, and he's over there like obliterating all these other peasants. Like, like he's like super saying, you know, he's like not Kamehameha. He's like, you know, laser beaming all these fools. But Scott takes a laser beam to the chest and like goes to toe with this. That was like a beef that I had.
Yeah.
Did you have the same?
Here's the thing. The whole movie, they're telling us how menacing and threatening King is, right? How dangerous he is. We learn that that he was exiled for who knows? We're not sure why, but like dangerous enough to be exiled. Okay. Yet Ant-Man, and not only that, but he tells us that he has killed numerous Avengers over his lifespan,
including
right?
Ant-Man.
Including Ant-Man, right? Through different dimensions. So it's like, okay, like this guy should be able to take him out. And then like I did like the scene, right? And we saw it in the trailer where he's like just beating the crap out of him, and like the Ant-Man mask shatters. But like, really?
Yeah, like I just felt like, yeah, there was just some moments in there. I'm like, and I understand that like when he gets big, like when he's larger, like it's a little bit different, and like there's some whatever physics.
Whatever physics.
I'm not.
We won't get into the quantum mechanics of of it all.
I mean, maybe there's something special in the quantum realm that you just like. If you're human, you have super abilities,
super strength. Yeah, but again, like and this is another aspect about King. What I don't want to happen is for the next 6 movies we are introduced to a new king.
But I think that's what's gonna happen
because I would love for this king to be our king. Like, I love Jonathan Majors' performance here. I would love to have known more about why he was banished, right, and exiled.
Yeah, or even why he's like trying, because
he says that I'm going to come out of here and I'm going to take he says something along the lines, and we see that towards the end with the voiceover with Scott, right? Like, he says, I need to come out because I need to stop
what's going to
happen. Right. And so like what, and maybe Marvel has like planned this out, mapped this out. Maybe they haven't. I'm sure it'll all be answered or whatever, but it would have been great. I just don't want like a new king every time. I think this was my criticism about Avengers Endgame, right? And that the fact that the Thanos that they end up fighting in Endgame
is a different Thanos.
It's a Thanos, and it's just the Thanos that they happen to stumble upon that timeline's Thanos, right?
Yeah.
To the point where when Scarlet Witch says like, "You took everything away from me," and he's like, "I don't even know who you are."
Yeah.
Like that Thanos was just not impactful for me. For the first Thanos was, right? Yeah. And I just don't want that to happen again with like, look at all these different kings and the fact that you have a character that there's infinite versions of him and therefore infinite opportunities to defeat him or for him to defeat the team. Yeah. This is a big challenge for the writers. Like,
I don't disagree with you. I think this is like Jonathan Majors did a phenomenal job.
Yes.
And like it should be noted that like he did a phenomenal job.
He's the highlight of this movie.
He is the highlight of this movie. And I 100% agree with you that like I hope that like it's alluded that he may be defeated or that he might not be. We're not exactly sure. And that's why I agree with you the fact that like I hope that this one comes back because there's something behind his madness or his desire for like there's a vengeance feeling.
Yeah.
And again, like I think that like this movie would have been 100 times better. I would have been singing his praises if Scott had gotten stuck in the quantum realm.
Yep. And
then had to be the one again to deal with part of keeping King at bay.
Yeah.
Right.
And providing the Ant family an opportunity to like figure out, okay, you give them an opportunity to have a major role in the next Avenger movies to say, no, we have faced King and we have had consequences because of facing King.
Right. And then having those consequences then come back in some fashion to disrupt some other aspect that and with King and whatever.
Whereas now it's like you get like the Ant family defeated King, like the Avengers should be able to take out King.
And I think this is like, and they kind of, I don't know, right? Again, this is one of those, this is where I think we can end on is the fact that like this movie and this scenario, because like at the end of the film, we have another VO from Paul giving kind of his synopsis, and then he almost has a panic attack.
Which this was my favorite bit of the whole movie. Like the favorite, like it really was. I think of all the comedic elements, this is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I think the thing is like, like, Paul is one of those people. He's me, 100%. He's me. Like, I will get to a moment and I'm like, I start to maybe go down a road where I might be freaking out or I might get depressed or whatever. But I'm like, nah, it's okay. Well, everything's D&D.
Everything's gonna be all right.
Everything's gonna be all right, and just kind of like push through. But deep down, there's something there that he knows that something's, there's something was left undone or whatever. And so I don't know if, like, to a degree it's about, like this, they're trying to like understand that like his character or like this family is just pushing aside the important things. Mm-hmm. And they want to come together. But again, I just think at the end of the day, they didn't like. And if we look back at some of the past films, let's see. We have Wakanda Forever. I don't really necessarily put that in. I mean, it's part of this phase, but like, it's its own kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we have Shang-Chi. We have, I mean, even with Multiverse of Madness. All these films, to a degree, I feel like I was beginning to feel like, where's the consequences in this?
Yeah, exactly.
What's happening? And I think this one is like one of the biggest culminations because we have Kang. And
you're setting him up. You're setting a tone for the rest of the movies, and you did not give us that payoff of this is someone we should be really concerned about.
Yeah. And so, where do you think this leaves us? Where does this leave? Because this is the start of Phase 5.
Yeah. I'm hoping, and it'll be interesting to see like Loki, the show coming out in a couple of months. There was that credit scene. I'm hoping that we really dig into more of Kang. I just want more Kang. Like, if there's one thing that I am excited about the MCU right now is that looking back at the Infinity Saga, was that we didn't really know Thanos and his motivations until Infinity War.
Yeah.
Right? And I love the fact that we're taking time now with even Phase 4 with the Loki series to introduce He Who Remains, to introduce Kang now, and hopefully see him in more movies. I want that like ominous presence to really be established, so that way when we get to Kang Dynasty
and Secret Wars,
it's like, okay, like this is a major threat, and we've had a handful of movies and series to like really sell me on Kang. I'm sold on Jonathan Majors, but I really want to know, like, that's what I'm excited for.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I think because they didn't provide enough consequences, I'm like somewhat.
You feel cheated almost.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. I feel cheated.
Yeah,
I do. I feel like if you watch, like I rewatched a while back with my wife. We watched the whole, from the beginning. She hadn't watched really any of them, so we ended up watching them. And even when I got back to Endgame, like I cried again, right? Because it was impactful.
Yeah.
And I think there are consequences in that whole first in the first in that whole arc. And I just feel like I want to feel again with these Marvel movies, and I think that's really what it comes down to, is that like give us these people that we've kind of enjoyed, and if you're going to introduce new people, let us like have consequences and let us understand that like there are still consequences despite the fact that there's a multiverse.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to dig because the writers have a huge feat ahead of them. Like
massive.
Every single time they come out with a new movie, they have to balance an actual movie with
the universe itself.
The universe, the entire, not only the cinematic universe, but also like because like now they have the multi, so they have a whole bunch of different options, right? And so it's not easy, and I understand that it's not easy. And I think I'm hoping. I mean, obviously, every single MCU exec is going to listen to this podcast. So, take notes, guys. But like, just let the writers do what they do. To just let them have moments in these films.
We need to have these consequences, but we as audience, we need to feel the impact.
Yeah.
We need to be bought in, and you said this a couple episodes ago that cinema is moments where we are allowed to like feel.
Yeah.
Right? And in this movie, I was getting to that point where I'm like, oh, someone's going to die here or Scott's going to get stuck here, but it wasn't given to me. And so that's where I feel cheated, right?
It is.
Because like you led me there, but there was no consequence.
Yeah.
And the characters, like it was too, I don't want to say easy, but it wasn't earned. And that's what we need. From moving forward, I really think that if you're going to continue to make the the MCU relevant, engaging, and keep having audience come back, is that you need to have these consequences and these moments where we as an audience can feel. And that's the challenge that I think the writers have. Because I think Kevin Feige, he is adamant on creating content for the masses.
Marcel, you gave a really great point in the fact that like, us being cheated, Kevin is doing these movies to the masses. And I almost feel like if he could just, it's hard. They want to sell toys. Like they're part of Disney. They want to sell toys. They want to sell games. They want to do the whole, do what Disney does best. But I think what they're missing the mark on, where I feel DCU might do, is address the fact that like the people who are watching these films today are adults that were kids when the MCU started, and are committed to the universe.
We talked about this with our episode on Avatar, right? Where we said like, had Avatar come out, like 2 to 3 years after, it would have been a disservice, because now the movie came out, 13 years later. We as audiences are in different stages of our lives, right? And I think that's why it hits so well with people. The same has to happen with the MCU. Yeah. Like people, like your audience has grown, has matured, and I think they're ready for, I don't want to say darker, more deeper themes and feelings.
And I think Wakanda Forever, to a degree, meets that. It's not it's not the best film, but I do think that it hits a tone. You're like, I think, when our first episode, maybe you were like, I don't know if I want to rewatch it because it's sad.
It's sad, and that, that one's unique because of the circumstances that happened in real life, right? But like, it had consequences. Yeah. And it had consequences that it impacted the characters. Yes. Right? And if you look at Sherry's growth in that movie,
huge.
It's massive, right? It's such an impactful growth, and it ends with like an opportunity for her to continue to grow. The fact that she doesn't say like who she saw in the spirit realm, right? That gives her an opportunity to be like, maybe I am like Killmonger or whatnot, right? It wasn't a payoff that was unearned, right? Like, we're still gonna see that character continue to progress and grow.
So, I don't know. In all sense, what would you give Ant-Man as our first like movie that we like watched and whatever? Let's do a proper like R rating.
Yeah, out of a 10, I'd give this like a solid 7.5. Like I liked it better than like Thor: Love and Thunder, personally, and I just, it could have been like a solid 8 or 9 had we had just a different ending with consequences, right? But yeah, like watch this again. I'll watch it again. Yeah. I'm excited to watch it again. I felt like our theater was very dark, and I kind of want to see it like a little bit lighter. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I'd give it a 7.5.
I give it a 6.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good watch. I think if I was watching it like at dinner time, like if I was cooking dinner or whatever, I'd enjoy it still, because it has moments and whatever. But yeah, at 6, would watch again.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's just Jonathan Majors.
Yeah,
Like, he is really what gives me the love for this movie. What love I have for it comes because of Jonathan Majors.
I would also say because of Paul, because Paul Rudd playing off of Jonathan Majors and like them giving each other the feeling of consequence.
Yeah,
I think is what helped make that makes the movie.
sure. Yeah,
For sure. Even though we're cheated.
we are cheated.
100%. We're telling you right now, you're cheated.
You are cheated at this.
Anyways, we hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we would love it if you could subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like to check out video stuff. We have released a couple of things, some trailer reactions. We'll release a couple things there, so head over there. If you could please give us a 5-star review, that really does help us to get discovered on the platform. So wherever you're doing that, there is one thing though. We on Spotify specifically, we do add some interactive elements to the episode. So if you're listening on Spotify, we'd love to ping with your response or whatever. I don't know exactly what that looks like on the back end because we haven't had anyone do it yet.
Yeah.
But I think it would be cool.
Yeah, let us know. We'll add like polls for you to like gauge your excitement on the movies or what we've done. We'll have like Q&A as well.
Yep.
But yeah, feel free, if you're listening on Spotify, engage with us in that aspect. We want to hear from you. Also, if going back to hearing from you, reach out to us. You're at realchums.com. That's our email. We want to hear what you liked about this movie, what you didn't like.
Yep.
Let's speculate a little bit. Maybe we'll read some of these whereas things are going. And like Danny said, you can connect with us on Twitter and YouTube at Real Chums.
You can also follow me at Rubio_TV on Twitter or Rubio TV and most other platforms. And then Marcel at Mostrosity with MRZTROSITY.
Next week, guys, we have an awesome episode.
Yes.
The last trailer just came out. Well, I guess came out like a couple of weeks ago. But with the excitement on that, we have decided to revisit the Tim Burton Batman movies.
And I haven't told you this, but I've decided to invite one of my buddies, Sean, who was around. He was in like high school or junior high when this movie came out.
Okay.
And so I just figured it'd be a fun experience to have our first guest.
Perfect. So we're gonna do both movies, and we're gonna talk about them. We're excited for it. I haven't watched these in a while.
Dude, me neither, and I'm so excited.
It's gonna be great. So make sure you come back next week because we're gonna have an awesome episode for you guys.